Hello, children of Gaza. My name's Shaun Tan. I'm a writer, artist, and filmmaker living in Melbourne, Australia. And I'm very proud and feel quite honoured to be able to speak to you over on the other side of the world and to introduce my short film, The Lost Thing, which is an animated film based on a picture book that I wrote and illustrated when I was 25 years old and living in Western Australia, which is where I was born. Here is the book itself, which was published about 20 years ago and has remained in print ever since. So it's been very popular here in Australia and in many parts of the world. And that's fascinating to me because when I originally wrote it, I didn't think that it would be very popular. It was just something that I did for fun, and I was looking for a way to actually make a living as someone who just likes drawing and telling stories. I guess one of the best ways that I like to introduce myself, especially to other young artists such as yourself, is to draw myself. And the interesting thing about The Lost Thing is it's actually a story kind of about myself. I often like to put myself in my stories. So the boy in The Lost Thing looks like this. It's got, start off with a pair of glasses, which is quite a prominent thing on my face. I kind of drew my characters in this story with a very elongated head. I'm not sure why, but it kind of looked interesting to me at the time. And what I love about drawing is that it's really just, it's like writing. It's a series of simple lines that create the illusion that something exists which didn't previously exist. It's a kind of magic, actually. After all, there's nothing really on the page but a few squiggles. But in our minds, when we look at it, it comes alive. And of course, with a lot more work and elaboration and painting and drawing and working with other people who create music and digital animation, I was able to actually bring some of these drawings to life as a short film. And it took a very long time. I started the project of making this film in 2001 and I finished it in 2010. And in the middle, a lot of times the film started and stopped and started and stopped. But I think the greatest success we had was in just sticking with it and deciding as a small group of about 5 people that we're going to make this film and we're not going to stop until we finish making it. And we did finish making it, and you're about to see it, or maybe you've already seen it. And we were very fortunate to have won an Academy Award or an Oscar for this film, which was a very strange thing to have happened and not something that I expected. But one of the most amazing things for me is that it means that the work that I've created in a small room such as this on the other side of the world is actually able to go out and be seen by other people and hopefully not just entertain you but give you something to think about, in the same way that when I write and draw I think about a lot of things, and I'm trying to understand the world around me, often by telling quite strange stories about weird creatures and odd looking people. But I hope that when you watch this film you come to understand that as well as being fun and strange and entertaining and a little bit like a dream, a lot of these stories actually are about things that are happening to us in real life. Some of the problems that we face as individuals, particularly as children, the difficulties that we have, especially when we're in a world run by adults, that is not always nice. Bad things can happen, and then there's always the question of how we deal with them. So I also want to show you some drawings that I did when I was a child. You can compare them with your own. I don't think they are very different from what you might be drawing yourself. And that's an important thing to note, because a lot of times people look at the work I do now and they think, oh, you're an artist, there must be something special about you. You must have been born in a particular way, you know, to come up with these stories. But it's really like anything, like sports or mathematics or, I don't know, just being a nice human being. It's something that you have to practice and develop over a number of years. So when I started out, my drawings looked like this. I was, admittedly, I was very good at drawing when I was young. I was about 6 years old when I drew this, but I think part of that was that I just really liked it. When I first started drawing, I wasn't good at it, but I liked it so much that I kept practicing and practicing and practicing. And after a while, I got better and better. And one of the most exciting things for me as a child was being able to draw something and show my friends, and they recognized what I was drawing and we could talk about it. And sometimes they would ask me to draw things and I would draw things for them. So in a way, I've been a freelance artist. That's somebody who draws pictures for other people my whole life. Let's see, I was obsessed with dinosaurs growing up. I had a big book of dinosaurs that I bought when I was 7 years old, and I spent the next many years copying these pictures of dinosaurs and trying to learn how to draw dinosaurs. Now, my father is an architect, so the good thing about that was there were always a lot of pens and pencils and paper in the house, and a lot of the paper was really big pieces of paper that my dad used for drawing designs for houses. And when he had finished designing a house and the house had been built, all these plans were no longer useful, so he would give them to me. I would turn them over and I would draw pictures on the back of them. And that was really nice to have really big pieces of paper where I could just draw, you know, whatever I wanted to. And more often than not, they were, you know, dinosaurs and robots and lots of explosions and things like that, and all the stuff that I guess a typical boy would be interested in. And when I was a little bit older, I started to write stories and paint pictures a little bit more seriously. I started to think about drawing as not just something that's fun, but something that can actually teach me something about the world. It's a way for me to think about things without using words necessarily. I can think about problems in my life, and I can think about places I would like to visit or things I would like to see by just using a pencil and paper. And fast forwarding many, many years, and I produced this book, which is probably my most well-known book, called The Arrival, and it's another strange creature there. The story of a man who has to leave his home because bad things are happening, and he has to live in another country, which is not a place that he planned to be living in. So here's an image of his hometown, and the whole book has no words at all. It's just pictures of different things happening, and families being separated and trying to find each other again, and the problems of arriving in a new country where you don't know the language and you don't know any other people and you don't have any money, and trying to survive. So this was something that became of interest to me, partly when I was researching some of my family history, because my father is Chinese and he came out to Australia when he was 20 years old, and he didn't really know anybody here, and he's since lived here for the rest of his life and had children, including myself and my brother, who ended up becoming a geologist, a very different profession, and also my mother, who's she is a British descendant, originally from Ireland and England, her family comes from, who came out to Australia to find a better life for themselves. And in fact, Australia is a very interesting country because it's full of migrants and a lot of refugees and people from many different places who all live together, especially in a city like Melbourne, and you know, have to learn to cooperate and learn from each other. And that became a lot of the stories of people coming to Australia as well as to other countries throughout the world became the basis for this book. Which took me 5 years to create, but I learnt a lot doing that. A lot of my books have been translated into other languages. This one in particular, called The Rabbits, which is actually about an aspect of Australian history, but it's been translated into many different countries, and yeah, that's been wonderful to see. It's also quite a strange experience to see your work in a language that you don't understand yourself. What else can I say? I hope you enjoy this short film. I hope that if any of you are interested in drawing or writing, that you keep practicing it, because it's a very important thing to do. People might not think so sometimes. They might see it as just a form of playing, which it is, but it's also a very important form of playing because it's a way of being able to express things that otherwise can't be seen, particularly when we tell stories to each other. It's a way of communicating our experiences to another person in a way that's very entertaining, but it also makes them think. And for me, that's always the most important thing of creating any artwork. First of all, it's fun and it's interesting to watch, but then afterwards, if it's a good story or a good set of paintings or drawings, you'll think about them a lot, and maybe it might even change the way you look at the world. The other thing I wanted to say is that writing and drawing is a wonderful way to express yourself if you have trouble expressing yourself in other ways. So when I was growing up, I had a lot of trouble maybe expressing myself verbally. I'm much better at speaking now, but I was very shy, and I was quite introverted. Like, I didn't like interacting with other people, but I still wanted to connect with other people. And one way that I found that worked for me was being able to draw quite amazing looking pictures and tell very interesting stories. And even today, when I tell stories, I tend to tell stories about characters and people and animals who are overlooked or ignored or have trouble expressing themselves. And a lot of readers have really responded to this positively and identified with those characters and feel that it's helped them to feel more creatively expressive themselves. So that's been a great pleasure for me. So I hope that for you, that if you are interested in doing creative work, even maybe becoming a filmmaker one day, that it's something that's quite accessible to do if you're prepared to work hard and to look carefully for inspiration and pay attention to the world around you, to be very observant and sensitive and kind, then you can become a great artist if you want to. It's something that anybody can do. So I hope you enjoy my film. Thank you very much for screening it, for organising the Gaza Children Cinema, and I think it's a wonderful thing, and hopefully one day I will be reading books or watching films by some of you. So goodbye and enjoy.